Welcome everybody to another Directed IRA webinar. My name is Nate Hare. Join with me, Lindsay Mersino. Her second webinar now.
I know, I'm getting really good at these.
Second
you might be
webinar,
out of a job soon.
I know, oh my gosh. But she will tell you, second webinar, 13 years in the industry, one more year than me. But in front of you, you've got about 25 years of self-directed IRA experience. And we're excited to share really the basics class about self-direction. What a self-directed IRA is, why is it different than other IRAs, and different, I'm going to put in quotation marks. What types of assets can be owned inside of a self-directed retirement plan? What types of plans can be self-directed? What are the tax benefits? And we actually have some actual client case studies to kind of wrap it all together. And it's going to be great for you guys if you're a beginner, actually just trying to educate yourself a little bit, understand what the self-directed IRA is. This is the program for you. But also if you're pretty savvy about self-direction, I find that these webinars, you always pick up a little nugget that you didn't hear before. And sometimes it's good to hear things 3 or 4 times and it snaps and then off you go, off to the races. And this is something that we're both very passionate about because really the service we provide here at Directed IRA is just the ability to save taxes when we invest in alternative investments. So we'll talk a little about
who doesn't love saving taxes.
I don't know. If you like paying taxes, there's other webinars for you. This one's probably not the one you want to join, but if you like saving in taxes, this is the one. You're in the right place. So let's jump into it. But before we do that, I have a quick announcement. I want to mention that a part of what we do here at Directed IRA is align ourselves with events that put people in the same room to encourage networking and really encourage education. One of the biggest events, actually the biggest event that we co-sponsor, is our Alternative Assets Summit. Now, what this event is one of the things that I would say keeps people on the fence about self-direction is it sounds exciting. They've got a retirement account. They want to take it out of the market because they're just tired of the ups and downs, but they don't know what to invest in.
Absolutely. That's the number one hurdle we see on a regular basis is people say, wow, self-directing sounds really cool, but what do I invest in? And we can't give you that answer. So places like the Alternative Asset Summit are great to learn about alternative assets.
Right. The power in a self-directed IRA is you get to pick the investment. The best thing about a self-directed IRA is you get to pick the investment. The worst thing about a self-directed IRA is you get to pick the investment because we're never going to tell you yes or no whether your investment is a good one or a bad one. So this is a great event. If you're just looking to get out there, learn a little bit more about different alternative asset types, different alternative asset strategies. This is a 2.5-day event that we're hosting right here in Scottsdale, Arizona, October 16th and 17th. You've got plenty of time to register, but we do have limited seating. This event is for the first 350 people that sign up, and we will sell out. We've already sold a ton of VIP tickets. So this is an event that if you're looking to learn more, if you're looking to hear from more speakers about different alternative investment strategies, I will tell you it is not a pitch fest. Our speakers are not allowed to pitch investments. They're only allowed to provide education. So it's a great place to get your feet wet about what the world of alternatives has to offer you. But the other thing with self-direction is when you start learning about the things that you can invest in and understand that you can actually direct your IRA into other types of investments, what you need alongside that can really increase the success rate of your self-directed journey is aligning yourself with strategic partners and just getting out and building a network. You guys have all heard the phrase, your net worth is equal to your network. This will help you increase your network. So you're going to find beginning investors there, medium investors there, and savvy, experienced investors there. And that is going to be, it's only once a year, guys, October 16th and 17th. You can get tickets. Early bird just ended, so apologize for that, but tickets are at a great price right now. If you scan that QR code or go to altassetsummit.com, you can grab your tickets. And again, limited seating only. So we'll come back to this, but I just want to make sure that we guys get that announcement. Our biggest event of the year is coming right down the road.
And the best part about this too is that we're going to be there live as well, along with our CEO, Matt Sorensen, who's hosting this event. So look forward to seeing you there.
It's a great, great event.
Yeah. So just general reminder, guys, we do this all day, every day. So we are not here for us. We are here for you. So please submit your questions. We'd love to do some Q&A throughout the entire program and really make sure that we're hitting the nail on the head with the questions that you have just burning in your brains. Because I know all you guys think about is self-directing, just like us. So drop them in the chat. Would love to see it. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. Today we're going to touch on the self-directed IRA basics. But as always, our CEO would love to see this disclaimer up, as do I. We are not here to provide tax, legal, or investment advice. We're simply here to serve as your trust company. We are a licensed trust company, and we're here to make sure that the investments that you make within your IRA are permissible within the IRA. But Nate and I aren't going to look at every single deal and say, oh, yep, that's a good investment for you, or that ROI looks wonderful. Unfortunately, we're not qualified to do that. And so it is solely up to you as the self-directed account owner to identify investments, perform your due diligence, and all that fun stuff. So we're just here for educational purposes and fun purposes, not for legal, tax, or investment advice. First and foremost, I love checking out this chart. I know this might have put some of you to sleep already, but this chart is actually really important in displaying the amounts of wealth that are in retirement accounts today. So right now, there's over $40 trillion saved in U.S. retirement accounts.
Did you say billions or trillions?
Trillions.
Okay, trillions
Yes,
with a T,
with
guys.
a T.
Yeah.
Trillions of dollars within retirement accounts right now. So what you're seeing here is a graph that shows you the progression of those retirement dollars growing year over year, quarter over quarter. But I want to draw your focus to that light blue number there. That's $15.2 trillion. That light blue section of that bar represents IRAs. Now, why is that significant? IRAs are individual retirement accounts. They are not tied to an employer, typically. You do have your SEP IRAs, but typically we're looking at traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. That is your money as an individual. So it's not tied to an employer. There's no restrictions as far as what you can invest in or whether you can use the money to make an investment. That money is yours. So that $15+ trillion sitting there right now can be self-directed today.
And I'll add this. When you talk about opening an account and funding an account, the easier ones to move around are IRAs.
Absolutely.
Not saying you can't move a current employer 401k. There's options for that. But usually when you leave your employer and the 401k is still sitting there, that can be rolled out. But if it's already rolled into an IRA, super easy to move to a self-directed IRA.
Absolutely. We see companies send funds over from other IRAs within less than a week. So as far as expediency goes, if you've got an IRA right now, that's ideal. But if you have other types of retirement accounts, like your 401ks or 403bs, that is what the other trillions are made up of, our employer-sponsored retirement plans. Now, just keep an eye on those numbers, though, because even though they may not be able to be accessed today, a lot of those people are looking to retire soon. So that means that they can potentially move it into IRAs.
Well, and the $40 trillion is where most of America's wealth is, right? Most people don't have money sitting in their bank account. They have it in their retirement account. And this program is here to show you, you could do so much more with that money just by knowing what you didn't know before, which we're going to get into here and show you what can an IRA or a 401k be invested in when you have it parked with a company like Directed IRA.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Next up, we do want to chat a little bit about the good old Fidelities of the world. Fidelity is a company that is just like us. So they are considered a retirement account custodian, again, just like us at Directed IRA. Fidelity, though, they're going to restrict what you can invest in. They like to only allow you to invest in things that I call boring, but necessary. You've got your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, CDs, well, snooze fest to me. But those are all acceptable. Those are all ways that you can diversify your retirement accounts. And if you go to Fidelity and you've got an IRA there and you say, hey, Fidelity, I want to buy a multifamily property with my IRA, they're going to look at you like you've got three heads. They're not going to let you do it. So that's where companies like us come into play.
Why don't they let you do it? Because they could. You could buy a single
it's
family
at the
property.
tip of my tongue. What is the reason? Oh, it's because they can't make commission on
They
your
don't
real
make
estate
money,
purchase.
right? Because
So,
they're a licensed securities agent. They also sell financial product, which is the difference between directed IRA and Fidelity. And they're not bad guys, but we're both licensed custodians. We both administrate retirement accounts for our clients. But our account agreement with our client says invest in anything the IRS allows, and we won't tell you what to invest in. Fidelity says invest in what we sell. And that's why most people don't even know that there's other options, because they only see the menu of investments that's offered by their Fidelity or their Charles Schwab.
it's such a disservice, though, and that's really why Nate and I are so passionate about this industry and why we've been in it for over a decade. Is we're just excited for the opportunity to educate people about this as a possibility. Maybe it's going to work for you, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Self-directing is not always for everybody, and we recognize that, but it is an option.
What are the most common investments we see here at Directed IRA that our clients make?
Yeah, number one, real estate. That's a big one. And real estate is such a broad statement and broad category, but think about single family rentals, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, commercial properties, multifamily properties, private lending that's tied to properties, land. That's really the biggest area that we see people investing is in real estate in some sort of fashion. We also see a lot of people do cryptocurrency, precious metals, private LLCs and businesses, private lending, and more.
Is there anything you can't own in a retirement account?
Oh, you're quizzing me now. Okay. So there's two areas that you have to stay away from, guys. Number one is collectibles. So as we always say, no stamp collection. I know Nate's nearing 50, and so he's got his really large stamp collection that he's really built up. But he can't have that in his Roth IRA, unfortunately. I'm sorry to burst your bubble.
Darn. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What else?
So no collectibles, no antiques, but the other item that you also cannot invest in is life insurance contracts. Outside of that, it's really fair game. The IRS has no restrictions on what you can invest in. So
yeah, the tax law is pretty lenient on what we put in a retirement account. Now, with that being said, you still have to work the investment through a custodian. That way the investment is owned in the IRA, which by definition is a tax-exempt trust. You have to have a custodian of the trust so that all the income comes back to the IRA tax-exempt. You don't want it going to you. You're a taxpayer. You want it going to your IRA, which is tax-exempt. So we'll talk a little about the process on how we take an IRA and invest in alternatives. But, and most of our clients, I would say, have an IRA at Fidelity and directed IRA, because you're not limited to how many IRAs you're allowed to have.
Yeah, you can have as many Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs as you want, spread out amongst a couple different companies. We obviously are going to be really proficient in handling the alternative investments and investing in what you know. As far as the Fidelities and Schwabs of the world, that's where the traditional stuff happens. So we see a lot of people that do that, though, and they'll diversify in that manner.
Okay.
All right. Another item that we also like to address is self-directed IRAs. What does that term even mean? The entire presentation today is about self-directed IRAs, and a lot of people will ask us, well, can I still contribute to this IRA? Can I still invest in XYZ with this IRA? The answer is a self-directed IRA is literally just a marketing term, guys. A marketing term that implies that it can own alternative assets, such as real estate and crypto. Other than that, all of the rules stay the same. So the contribution limits are the same. The portability, whether you can transfer it to other IRAs, is the same. The tax forms that we file for you are the same. Did I miss anything? Everything's kind of the same.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, an IRA is an IRA is an IRA. A 401k is a 401k is a 401k. The tax law is the same no matter where you park it. It's just that different companies do different things. But like we said, most clients of ours at least have, an IRA at Fidelity that holds their paper assets or their stocks or their bonds, and they leave some money here at Directed IRA that can invest in alternatives like real estate or cryptocurrency or whatever they choose. But when you have different IRAs parked at two different custodians that hold different assets, well, now you're talking real diversification, not the diversification your wealth advisor wants to pitch you, which is high risk mutual funds, medium and low. That's not true diversification. True diversification from a really good wealth advisor will say, hey, let's park some of your money in these assets over here, but we want to have some alternative assets in your overall portfolio too. And there's a lot of benefits to alternative assets. One being tangibility. I mean, think of a rental property versus a stock, right? Stock in a company, that company could go bankrupt and I lose everything. A piece of real estate, it's hard to go to zero on a piece of real
I mean,
estate.
what if we burn it down?
We got insurance that'll cover our losses on that.
go.
So even if a rental property is owned in my IRA, there's still insurance on that property. Now, will the property value go up and down like the market? Sure. But if you look at the most conservative numbers about how real estate appreciates, 5 to 7% a year. But that's not the only way that you make money on real estate. You also make it through cash flow if it's a investment property. So when you start thinking of IRA on those terms, where now you're allowed to hold assets that appreciate over time and have multiple streams of income, this is why investors love self-direction and why the majority of them gravitate toward real estate, because it's tangible, multiple streams of income, and they know and understand it better. We're not here to say real estate's the only thing you can invest in. We're going to talk about other types of investment strategies, but just to give you an idea what most clients invest in, I would say real estate in general, promissory notes, which is private lending, investments into syndications or commercial property.
Yeah.
We have a lot of clients invest in cryptocurrency. But again, the only things you're not allowed to hold in an IRA are life insurance contracts and collectibles. So if you need to invest in an alternative asset and Fidelity won't let you do it, we're your best friend over here at Directed IRA. And we'll talk about how you can get an account established here in a second. So let's talk about account types.
Ooh, yes. My
Okay,
favorite.
so what types of accounts can be self-directed? Now, remember, as Lindsay mentioned, self-directed is just a marketing term. So we have 6 accounts here at Directed IRA. And if you take one screenshot of one slide, take a screenshot of this slide. Why? Because this is where you get Uncle Sam off your back, okay? Every account on here, traditional IRA, Roth IRA, SEP IRA, solo 401k, health savings accounts, and educational savings accounts are the 6 accounts we have here at Directed IRA that can be self-directed. By definition, the money in those accounts is not yours until you take a distribution. Those accounts, by definition, are tax-exempt trusts, okay? These accounts do not pay taxes, okay? So you can put assets in them. You can put stocks in them. You can buy and sell a stock, and your IRA pays no tax on the gain. You may pay a tax when you take a distribution, depending on the IRA that you have, and those are usually your pre-tax IRAs, like a traditional IRA or a SEP IRA, and in some cases, solo case. But you can also self-direct Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, HSAs, and ESAs, which are still tax-exempt trusts. The only difference is how are the distributions taxed? Okay, we've got some classes on how these vary, but I would probably say, just as a general rule of thumb, if you're somebody that understands how to take a small amount of money and make it larger in a retirement account, do you want the profit to be taxed or do you want the profit to be untaxed? That's a big decision for people, especially if you're trying to grow generational wealth or wealth in retirement. So you often hear a lot of self-directed IRA educators talk a lot about the Roth IRA because, again, if you take a small amount of money, do you want to pay taxes on the small bucket or the larger bucket?
The large bucket.
No, that's what the IRS wants you to do.
Okay, sorry.
That's why they push the traditional IRA on us so hard. But again, these are the 6 accounts that can be self-directed. Now, what I always like to remind people is you can have multiple accounts, okay? There's 3 categories of plans. The personal plans are just what we can have as a tax-paying individual with earned income. There's no age restrictions on them. I have a 9-year-old with a $75,000 self-directed Roth IRA.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you have earned income, you can have a traditional and or Roth IRA. Now, the contributions are limited. Don't get contribution confused with profit. I often get people confused. They hear our case studies. I've got a case study, by the way, of how a client of mine took $10,000 and turned it into $297,000 tax-free in a self-directed Roth. I even had a wealth advisor say, that's impossible because the contribution limit's only $7,000. Nate, how did he do that? Profit is unlimited. Contribution is limited. Contribution is what you take out of your pocket and add to the account.
I got to pause there because this is such a FAQ that we get on a regular basis. People get so hung up on, well, how am I supposed to get $100,000 or $1 million into my Roth IRA? And you just hit the nail on the head with that. Could you revisit that one more time? The earnings are
unlimited. There's no prevention. If you guys ever heard of Peter Thiel? Peter Thiel has a $6 billion Roth IRA. How did it become $6 billion? How do you contribute that much? He didn't contribute anything. I mean, he contributed it at the beginning, but he invested into Facebook private stock before it became public, and lo and behold, Facebook blew up, and now his $200,000 Roth IRA is now a $6 billion Roth IRA. Take that, IRS.
Yeah.
So there's no limit on profit, but there is limit on contribution. So if you throw that slide back up, Angel, that's just one category of plan that we're allowed to contribute to in self-direct, personal plans. Now, if you're self-employed, if you've got any Schedule C income, 1099 income, you run a side hustle, maybe you're just fully self-employed, maybe you and your spouse own a business, here's another page on the menu. SEP IRAs and solo 401ks allow for larger contributions than the personal plans. You can still do both as long as you have some self-employment income. And they can also be self-directed. So this is just another page on the menu. Now, if you have health expenses or kids with education expenses, please look at the HSA and the ESA, because these are not retirement accounts. These are tax-exempt plans that can be self-directed, but the distributions can be taken out of the profit through these plans. The day you make the profit, or the day the account makes the profit, taken out tax-free to pay for out-of-pocket health care and education expenses for your kids from pre-K all the way through college. I don't want to spend too much time on this because that's a whole class in itself. If you go to our Directed IRA workshop page online, you can find tons of education on these. But when you start dicing these plans up, right? Personal plans, employer plans, and plans that aren't even retirement plans that can help pay for health care and education, now you can see, well, I don't want just one plan. I need lots of these plans because my Roth IRA is for tax-free wealth in retirement. My HSA is to pay for health care today. My ESAs for my kids are to pay for education expenses today. So when you look at this, you want to start identifying all the tax-exempt plans that you can have, and pretty soon your back pocket starts feeling a little bigger because Uncle Sam gets less of your profit on your deals. Now, one thing I will say, a lot of real estate investors say, well, Nate, why would I buy a rental property in an IRA if I don't get depreciation?
Yeah, you get really hung up on that.
So, guys, when you start talking about self-direction, you don't have to just invest in alternatives in an IRA. Most of my clients invest in both. They've got some real estate assets outside of an IRA. They've got some real estate assets inside of an IRA. Now, depreciation works well outside of an IRA because you're trying to offset your taxes because you're a taxpayer. Your IRA is not a taxpayer. There's no tax to offset. So all of the gains are already tax-free. You don't need depreciation if there's no tax to depreciate against.
There's nothing to depreciate, guys.
There's nothing to depreciate. So don't get in your own way by thinking, oh, I only want to invest in real estate to get depreciation. No, you want to invest in the things that give you the best gains and the things that you're most comfortable with. So again, these are just the accounts that allow you to get Uncle Sam off of your back. And when you really start thinking about it, you can partner these accounts together. Also, think about each plan as its own buyer, right? Each plan can have money in it. Each plan can offer capital to an investment. You can even have each plan partner together to make the same investment. I'll give you a quick example. I do some private lending. I like to be invested in real estate without doing all the ownership work for real estate.
Yeah, you're just acting as the bank.
I'm just acting as the bank. But when I make a loan to a real estate investor with my self-directed plans, I don't just use my Roth IRA because that's only one account that has meaning to me. But that account also, I can't take distributions tax-free until I reach the age of 59 and a half.
You're almost there.
Lindsay. So what other account is beneficial to me? I've got a self-directed HSA, right? Now, there's some qualifying criteria to have an HSA, but 65% of working Americans have an HSA or an old HSA.
I just got to say, the HSA is so hot right now. I feel like over the last couple of years, it's gained in popularity, and I don't know if it's just in our space or not, but getting deductions on your contributions and getting tax-free withdrawals is just amazing.
It's really the best of both worlds. If you're not up to date on an HSA, it's probably even, some people would argue, better than a Roth IRA. But they fit different purposes. So I'll just go back to my example. When I loan to a real estate investor, The promissory note is the document that my custodian's going to hold. And we'll talk about this here in a second. But on that promissory note, I have my Roth IRA and my HSA listed as the lender. They just have a pro rata share of the note. But the reason I do that is because those two accounts fit different purposes of my life. My Roth is for later, my HSA is for now. So when that loan goes out and the borrower starts making payments back to directed IRA off the interest payments, that interest check gets split between my Roth and my HSA. Okay, my Roth money I leave in. My HSA dollars from that interest payment from the borrower, I can take out to pay for qualified out-of-pocket health expenses, glasses, acupuncture, prescriptions, holistic medicines, and not just my expenses, my wife's expenses, my spouse, or my kids, any of my dependents. So again, all I'm doing is using money in a tax-advantaged account to loan secured by real estate and have the real estate investor do all the work and have the income come back to two different accounts that I can use for different purposes of my life.
Love your strategy, Nate. That's awesome.
And there's other ways that we can partner accounts together, and we'll get to that in a sec. But let's first, before we get into some cool case studies, let's talk about the thing the IRS doesn't want us to do. Now, we told you earlier, they're pretty lenient about what we own in an IRA, but there's very strict rules about who our IRA transacts with. This is where self-directed education comes in handy. Now, I will tell you, these rules are the same at Fidelity too. The only difference is they don't have to have this conversation with you because you're not investing with other people. You're just investing on Wall Street. You're buying financial products from them. When you have a self-directed IRA, you have the ability to buy things from individuals. There's certain individuals your IRA cannot buy things from or transact with. So let's talk about the rules really quick. If we break it down, there's three categories of restrictions when it comes to IRAs and 401ks. Okay. We already talked about the first one, the investment restrictions. No life insurance contracts, no collectibles. Easy peasy. Outside of that, if we can drop a purchase contract to buy it, our IRA can be the buyer. If we can hold title to something, our IRA can hold the title, can own the title. Where it gets a little, again, not hairy, but where you want to really understand the rules is 2 and 3. The people restrictions, who are the people my IRA cannot transact with, okay, and the transaction restrictions, which are just all the things those people can't do. So they're interrelated, okay? So let's define the people our IRAs are not allowed to transact with, okay? Remember, just for foundational purposes, you and your IRA are two different people, okay? You are the fiduciary to your IRA. Your IRA is a tax-exempt trust. Your job to your IRA is to make contributions to the IRA. Your job to the IRA is to find investments for the IRA. All the income from that investment goes to the IRA, and then you receive your benefit by taking distributions from the IRA. But you're like the quarterback here. You're calling the plays, but the ball is in the hand of your IRA or your 401k. Okay? You have to act in the best interests of your IRA, and your IRA will spit out distributions to you at the right time, either taxable or tax-free, depending on the type of IRA you have. But you are two separate people, okay? When it comes to finding investments or directing your IRA to make investments, one of the main the main disqualified person to your IRA is you, the fiduciary to the IRA. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to tell your IRA to buy your stuff. It's a conflict of interest. So if you own a rental property personally or in your LLC, unfortunately, you cannot sell it to your IRA, okay? There's no self-dealing between your IRA and yourself. You're the main fiduciary. You're not allowed to self-deal with your own IRA.
But what if I sold that property that I own? Can I sell it to my neighbor for $1 and then my IRA can buy it from my neighbor?
You can sure try, but a pesky IRS agent will probably unpeel that onion pretty fast with that paper trail and say, you just did what you can't do in one step and you just did it in 2. Mm-hmm. Okay. So as a general rule of thumb, just get out of that train of thought that I want to dump all my property in my IRA, because you just can't do it and there's no workaround to it. But there's plenty of other people your IRA can buy property from. But here's the other people that also are what we call disqualified to your IRA. So if I'm talking my IRA, the disqualified people to my IRA is me, the IRA owner, my spouse, my parents, my grandparents, which are lineal ascendants, my lineal descendants, which are my kids and my grandkids and all the way down, and their spouses, and any companies that are owned and controlled by those same individuals. So let me repeat. The people in my IRA are not allowed to transact with: me, spouse, up the line, down the line, their spouses, and any companies those same people own or control. Now, you probably noticed I didn't name certain family members, right? Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles,
Yep.
cousins, nieces, nephews, okay? In the IRA world, think about when you die, what happens to your IRA? It turns into an inherited IRA. Those inherited IRAs usually go 99% of the time to the spouse or to the kids. You normally don't pass wealth sideways. So the IRS says, you know what? If those are the people that are going to inherit the IRA, they're also fiduciaries to the IRA. Your wife is a fiduciary to your IRA, just like you're a fiduciary to your IRA, because most likely she's the beneficiary of the IRA. So just understand there are certain family members that you just cannot transact with, or your IRA cannot transact with, but there's other family members that might not be on that list, and just understand why they do that. Now, the penalties for an IRA transacting with a disqualified person are pretty steep. But when you hear the penalty, this also says to me, oh, they penalize this pretty hard because there's so much tax advantage that an IRA gets. They don't want you messing with the rules. So general rule of thumb, $1 loan, if you got $1 million IRA and you make $1 loan to your mom, who's a disqualified person, $1 million distribution, right? They just don't allow you to have the IRA anymore. So just don't mess with those rules, and this is the big stickler. But again, just think about your IRA should be investing with non-disqualified people. Your job is just to find those deals, okay? But it can't be deals that you can't sell things to yourself, and here's the things you can't do. Your IRA can't buy your own assets or buy from a disqualified person. You can't sell assets to your IRA. You cannot trade assets between you and your IRA. You can't make a loan to an IRA. Now, an IRA can get a loan. Just can't get a loan from a disqualified person, okay? You also can't extend services to your IRA. This is a little different, and again, I would always urge somebody, if you've got a question about a specific deal you're looking at, talk to one of our IRA account executives. They're very well astute on how to tell you about the rules. And extension of services is not well defined, but basically, general rule of thumb is if your IRA owns a rental property, you can't do the work on the rental property. That would be an extension of a service. You got to hire that work out, or it's got to be hired out to a non-disqualified person, right? Hire contractors, subcontractors. The contractor cannot be you when it's owned by your IRA. Another big one is you cannot extend credit to obtain financing for your IRA. There's other ways you can get financing for the IRA, but you cannot sign off on the debt for an asset owned in your IRA. So you just have to have a little bit of arm's length from the investment and just be a good fiduciary to your IRA to make it grow, okay? And use non-disqualified people to do everything else. And I got a good case study, the one about $10,000 to $297. We'll talk about how he got around the rules, and around it in a legal way, by using his network of financial friends and not using himself. That would have blown up his IRA. So just remember, okay, you get your benefit from the distributions from your IRA, but you can't transact with the IRA. And that's really it, guys. Those are the main rules. That if you stay out of that hot water, you can grow an IRA to unbelievable levels based on your knowledge as an investor, okay, and how you self-direct it and tell us what to buy when you buy it. So let's talk about the process then. How does this actually work? How do they take an IRA from, say, Fidelity, move it over to Directed IRA and buy a rental property or buy cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so the entire process is really straightforward, guys. And the good news, though, is that we have an entire team here that are subject matter experts in this topic. So we can really help remove the red tape and the questions. So book a call with us. That way you can at least just explore what it looks like. Ask if the investment that you're considering is even feasible. There's endless amounts of investments out there. But step number one, of course, is to open up your self-directed account. And again, a lot of people think, is this complex? Do I have to, mail something in? Do I have to? No, you just go online or book a call with one of our team members. They'll help you set up that account all online. Just like the other traditional firms of the world, it's not on paper. Head over to the website and it takes less than 5 minutes. I even have somebody that did it in like 3.5 minutes. So it can be very, very very quick. The second step, though, is really the most critical, and that's when you are funding your accounts. So if you establish a Roth IRA with us, as an example, we would hate to see you attempt to try to move over pre-tax money into that Roth IRA, because then you're going pre-tax to post-tax dollars. That's exactly what our team is here to help you do, is to identify the different types of accounts that are feasible for you and identify how to move that money over and ensure that there are no taxes or penalties. That's another big question I get, is what are the taxes and penalties if I'm going to use my IRA to invest in real estate? None, as long as you follow our directive and follow the steps that we give to you. Don't go rogue on us.
Yeah, as long as you do it the right way and you don't take the money out to yourself and try to give it back to us, there's no tax penalty on transferring an IRA, and in most cases, rolling a 401k over, provided you do the right type of rollover.
Yes. So step number 1, open that account. Step number 2, fund the account. The most common method that we see is going to be the rollover or the transfer. The rollovers are really common because a lot of people have a old 401k or defined benefit plan just sitting there doing nothing. Maybe it's making 1% in a mutual fund. You left that employer a year ago or 2 years ago, and it's just sitting there. Those are the kinds of accounts that we roll over all day, every day.
So the most common question I get is, I got a current employer 401k. Can I roll that over?
Always sending me the hard ones. So with this particular question, the answer is maybe. And we love that
Depends.
answer. Yes, it depends. If you are 59 and a half and you are still employed by your W-2 employer and you have a 401k there, yes, you can utilize that 401k. We also see some people that have plans that have disclaimers or exclusions, where they can actually move money over once they hit 55. Not all of them. 59 and a half is that magic number, but if you're 55, check with your HR department. They may have an additional clause that allows you to move over some or all of that 401k plan today.
And who decides that? Do we decide that at Directed IRA?
No, we're not
Does
the bad
IRS
guys.
decide it?
The IRS doesn't even decide it.
Nope.
It's actually solely on your employer and the TPA, so the third-party administrator that they are working with to have that plan set up. So that's why the answer is so squishy, and I wish I had a better black or white answer for you on this.
So if you have a current 401k, current 403b, TRS, TSP, the quick short answer is you got to ask your employer. And here's the term you want to use. Do I have in-service rollover options? I'm still in service with the company. Can I roll some of this money out? And again, it's going to be on the provisions of the docs of that 401k or whatever that plan is. There's usually criteria that you have to meet, whether it's 59 or 55 or you're fully vested, or again, that's all going to be in the plan documents. Now, if you rolled some money over from an old employer into that 401k, well, most likely you can roll that money out because you already have what's called separation of service from the past company. You just rolled it into your new company's 401k. So usually separation of service, you're no longer with the company, alleviates all those questions. Yes, once you're not working with the company, you're not a plan participant, you can roll that into an IRA. And if it's already in an IRA, you just do an IRA to IRA transfer.
So what we're saying is if you have a 401k with your current employer that you're still employed by, there's a chance that you could use it. So always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask and see if you can start self-directing today. So the rollover is, again, the 401k movement or employer plan movement over to an IRA, a self-directed IRA here with us. A transfer is simply moving an IRA elsewhere to an IRA here with us. Those are also something that we see very commonly all day, every day. And last but not least is those contributions. So there are people out there that open a brand new account and contribute for the first time ever with us. So all sources of funding are acceptable to us, whether it's the contribution, transfer, or the rollover. We'll help you out and walk you through every step of the way with that.
Now, here's where the self and self-direction comes in.
Yes, yes. Step number 3, find your investment, then submit your investment documentation. Now, this is an area that you have to take on full responsibility for, because Nate and I, again, we're not qualified to tell you what to invest in, and we're not going to look for a portfolio or a menu of different investments to offer you, as again, that's above our pay grade. So we'll leave that to the pros and your advisors. But you find the investment. Let's say, I want to purchase 123 Happy Street with my Roth IRA. Lindsay, can I do that? Well, you're going to send us all the documents related to that particular property purchase, and we're going to help guide you in order to make that actually happen. So we'll look for red flags, we'll look for disqualified parties, and then just think of us though as like the bumpers on the bowling alley. We're here to help keep you safe, but and guide you. We're just not here to actually I was going to use a bowling pun, but I'll stop.
So as a general rule of thumb, you're going to find the investment. You're going to negotiate the terms on that investment. We're not associated with that. But there is a specific name that you have to use as the buyer. So let's just, again, most people are familiar with real estate, so we'll just keep it with the terms of real estate. I'm meeting with a seller, okay? I really like this rental property, but I want it owned in my Roth. I don't want to own it personally, okay? I'm negotiating the terms with the seller. All that we have no part of. When it comes to the buyer on the contract, the buyer's your IRA. The buyer is not you, the person, okay? As soon as you open an IRA with us, you're going to get a welcome packet. You're going to get a welcome email. It's going to have your IRA vesting. Okay, your IRA vesting is always going to start with the custodian name, followed by FBO, your name and account. Okay, so for instance, if I'm using Nate Hare's Roth IRA as the buyer on the contract is not Nate Hare. It's Directed Trust Company for the benefit of Nate Hare's Roth IRA. That's the name of my trust. That's the name of my account at Directed IRA. It's the same thing at Fidelity. If you ever looked at the stock certificate that they hold, if you've got Walmart stock owned in your Roth IRA, the owner is not you. The owner is Fidelity Investments, FBO, Nate Hare Roth IRA. It's the same thing. They're holding a stock certificate. We hold a deed. Okay? They hold a stock certificate. We hold a promissory note. So we're doing exactly the same things. The only thing is, real estate has more moving parts, right? You're involved in the deal, so you got to make sure you're using the vesting. And then once that seller agrees to take that offer, then you send the contract to us. We sign as your custodian. We don't tell you it's a good investment or a bad investment. We just sign it and we send it back to the agent. And then they usually give us a form with that document, with that purchase agreement. It's called our direction of investment form. So as a general rule of thumb, you always need to provide us two things to deploy money on an investment. A direction of investment form. This form gives us the authority to make the investment on your behalf. It's like pushing a button at Fidelity. This is the button, okay? You fill out a form. We've got forms for real estate. We've got forms for other types of investments, promissory notes, private equity. Okay, you fill out the appropriate form, and then we want to see the purchase documents and make sure that your IRA is properly vested on that account. Then all we're doing, guys, is we're exchanging your IRA's asset of cash for an asset of real estate. We're exchanging your IRA's asset of cash for an asset of a promissory note. Okay? A lot of people think, well, my advisor told me I'm going to get taxed and penalized when I do this. That's because they envision you taking money out of the IRA to go buy real estate. If you go to your advisor right now and say, hey, I just heard these crazy Nate and crazy Lindsay say I can buy real estate with my IRA funds, I want to do that. They say, whoa, pump on the brakes. You're going to get taxed and penalized on that. They envision you taking a distribution out of the IRA, which you are taxed and potentially penalized on, and going and buying it yourself. There's no distribution when you're doing it through Directed IRA because we're exchanging your IRA's asset of cash in return for an asset of real estate. And we'll hold the deed here as evidence of this is what your IRA owns. And then from that point on, all of the income from that investment should be coming back to the IRA. But again, the income is tax exempt, whether that's rental income, capital gain, profit from a sale, interest income, whatever the case may be, no taxes to an IRA.
Yeah.
Is our transaction team pretty good?
Oh, they're phenomenal. Yeah. Check out our Google reviews. That's everybody just raves about them. 5 stars all around, just how quick they are, how responsive they are, and how helpful they are. And that's really what we're here to do.
So step 1, open an account. Step 2, fund it. Step 3, self-direct it and tell us what we're investing in. So let's get into some case studies real quick. And I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to skip the first one, and I'm going to go right to the second one. Okay. Now, one of the things that I always remind people is, with real estate, especially, one of the cool things is the ability to use leverage. Okay. Leveraging your own talent as a real estate investor, leveraging financing if your IRA needs some additional funds or your solo 401k needs some additional funds, or leveraging your network. So I want to give a story, real life story about a client of mine, John. Okay. Now, John was a real estate investor in Houston. Okay, if you guys are familiar with the 3rd Ward in Houston, okay, this is much different area today than it was 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Okay, a lot of investors would not touch the 3rd Ward, high risk, crime, all the things that would scare a beginning investor away. A lot of savvy investors go, there's some opportunity here. So our client, John, had his office right in the 3rd Ward, and he was a real estate developer at the same time. Now, I'll tell you, John was in his mid-50s, and he had never set up an IRA until he set up a self-directed Roth IRA. Once he started learning about the power of this tax-free growth, he started saying, you know what, I'm getting taxed and I'm getting killed by having all of my income outside of tax-exempt plans. So he set up a self-directed Roth, and he made 2 years contributions before he made this first investment. He made a contribution of $5,000 one year because that was the max contribution, and then he threw another $5,000 in the next year. So all he had was $10,000. So he gets a knock on the door one day, and it's from one of the people in the community that had fell on hard times, and she was having her house foreclosed on by the county assessor. Okay. Now, unfortunately, she was elderly. She was in her 80s. Didn't have any income.
Man,
right?
I hope this story gets better.
It does.
So
it
sad.
does. And the unfortunate thing is she wasn't paying the property taxes. Now, the county assessor did not care. They started filing for the foreclosure, and she was about 2 weeks away from losing her house and really being on the street. She had no solutions on how to correct this problem. So she came to John looking for some help. Now, what John did as an investor, he looked at the deal and said, you know what? I don't even know if I want this house. The condition was poor. It was a hoarder house. If he bought it, where does she go? Right? So he decided to do something a little bit more creative. And this is where I love self-direction, because your creativity and your experience can help your IRA grow. So what he did, long story short, is instead of buying the property or having the self-directed Roth buy the property, instead of having a purchase contract where his IRA was the buyer that we signed and we just bought it from the gal, he decided to do what's called a real estate option. Okay, real estate option, I'm not going to get too much into the details, but it's a one-way contract. It's basically where you give consideration to have the first right to buy the property. But you don't have no obligation to buy the property. You have the first right, but you have no obligation to buy it. Now, why did he set it up this way? Well, because with a real estate option, you have a lot of different options with a real estate option. You got 4 exit strategies with a real estate option contract. You can exercise your option, you can assign the option, you can let the option expire, or you can have the seller or the owner pay to have the option canceled. So what he ended up doing is he had the Roth IRA put up $10,000 of consideration, because that's all it had, to have an option to buy the property within 2 years. Okay, what this allowed the homeowner to do is take $10,000 to pay the property taxes. Okay, problem solved there. He also made it, since she owned the house free and clear, he made the option period long enough to where she had time to find somewhere to live. Okay, she ended up finding family up north, so that she ended up finding some time, right, where she wasn't on the street, to move out of the house. Okay, and he gave her an option period of 2 years. Now, on the option contract, they made the purchase price the same, right? It was $10,000 of consideration, and the Roth had the right to buy the property for the same $10,000, but it has to make the decision within that 2-year period. Again, a little bit more advanced, but I'm just showing you what John's mentality was going into this investment. So before the 2 years, lady moves up to north. So now the Roth IRA exercises its option and basically takes title to a hoarder house in the 3rd ward. Now, what do you do with a hoarder house in the 3rd ward? He's already maxed out his contributions. He can't put any more money in it. And based on IRA rules, if you think back, John is not allowed to come in with his own money to develop on property that his IRA owns. Now, had he started from the very beginning of the transaction and partnered with his IRA, that's a different story. But once your IRA owns something, you can't personally come in and do work or provide financing for that property. So this is where he got creative, okay? This property sat on a pretty nice piece of land in the 3rd ward. And by this time, a lot of things were happening in the 3rd ward. And if you guys have ever been to Houston, no zoning laws. You can build a preschool next to a gym, next to a shooting ring, it doesn't matter. So what they wanted to do is build 2 brand new townhomes and sell them retail. But where's John's IRA going to get financing for that? Okay, could it go to a bank and get financing? Yes, but probably a hard loan for a bank to make on a hoarder house in the 3rd ward owned by an IRA. So what he did is he decided to reach out to a friend of his who owned a construction company. Okay, what they did with this point is the Roth IRA owns the property. Okay, Roth IRA and construction company of a non-disqualified person that John owned, what they did is they formed a joint venture agreement. Okay. The joint venture agreement spelled out that the construction company from a non-disqualified person would come in with all the construction costs, demo the property, build 2 new townhomes, and once those townhomes were sold retail, the Roth IRA and the construction company would split the net profits 50-50.
I like it.
Okay, so he used his network, okay, to strike up a deal with a non-disqualified construction company and basically take this hoarder house and build 2 brand new townhomes. Now back to the slide. This took about 16 months to do, okay? They sold these townhomes for a net profit after costs and all that for $595,306. That was split 50-50 between the construction company, good job construction company, and the Roth IRA. Great job, Roth IRA. The Roth IRA netted $297,653 in about 3 years off a $10,000 investment.
Very cool.
Using his knowledge as a real estate investor, his knowledge of contracts, his knowledge of real estate options. And again, you don't have to be this savvy. This just goes to show you, you don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars in a retirement account to invest in real estate or invest in alts. Okay. This is just one example. Let's show you another example. Oh, I missed the example. Let me give you one more example that I forgot in here. Okay, which is assignment of contract. Okay, we have a lot of clients. I actually had a client just the other day, okay, just last week actually, take one of those educational savings accounts. Again, a great account that can be self-directed, but remember, it's not like a retirement account because if an ESA makes an investment, if we sign the documents as the buyer, the ESA makes profit, the account responsible individual, the parent, can take the profit out immediately, tax-free and penalty-free, to pay for qualified education expenses for their kids. So qualified education expenses is pretty broad. Tuition, books, computers, iPads, tutoring, even your home internet bill is a qualified education expense that can be paid with tax-free dollars off of the earnings of a self-directed educational savings account. So this client, John, just last week, struck up a deal where, again, made a contribution to his son's ESA for $2,000. That was the max contribution. Okay, found a property that he can get under contract that ultimately was assigned. That contract was assigned to another investor. Wow. Again, utilizing your network. Okay, the $2,000 was the contribution, but that's all that the ESA had to put up for the earnest money deposit to lock the property up in a contract.
I'm glad you're saying this particular example and sharing this with everybody, because a lot of people have the common misconception that you need 6 figures right off the bat to get started in a self-directed IRA.
When it comes to real estate, you just need enough money for an earnest money deposit. After that, you have some exit strategies. Now, I will say if you're doing more passive investing, you're investing with maybe a syndicator or commercial property, sometimes they have investment minimums, which could be $50,000 or $100,000. But again, you can also dissect which investments fit better in which plans. The reason I love this investment is because with assignments, and even that option, 2 years, you think about it. If I'm thinking about how these accounts work, the accounts that I can take money out today, I want the quicker turn investments in those. Right. That's HSA and ESA. Okay, this investment that this investor made with his son's ESA is because he already had the end buyer lined up. He already had conversations with the seller on what he can draft a contract for, and there was enough equity spread in there to be able to assign it and still make a profit. So because the profit was realized in literally 2 weeks, he wanted that coming back to an account that he can use the money in 2 weeks, which was his son's education expenses. So long story short, the ESA put up the earnest money. The ESA was the buyer on the contract. He found an end buyer. They had an assignment contract drafted. The assignment fee was $15,000. That $15,000 is already in his son's ESA account, which can be immediately withdrawn to pay for the son's tuition, and none of it is taxed because it's in a tax-exempt account. Had he done that same investment in his name, he loses 40% to Uncle Sam.
Amazing.
So
Not everybody, though, has the same kind of network as John. So where could people go and gather, maybe in Scottsdale, and meet and add to their network of people that think like this?
I think we have an investment. I think we have a place that people can come to learn more about
we?
it and meet people that actually have investment opportunities.
Yeah,
that would
just
be
like-minded individuals.
Yeah. Tell them about it.
Yeah,
we talked about it at the beginning.
We talked about it already. If you missed it, guys, this is the Alternative Asset Summit. I know it sounds riveting, but I promise you it is. We're going to have 2.5 days of presentations and action-packed speakers. These speakers are absolutely not pitching to anybody. They are not allowed to do that from our stage or at any of our events. This is strictly educational. Come learn about crypto. Come learn about private lending. Come learn about syndications and how to do due diligence on some of these assets. The more that you learn, the more that you know, the better decisions you're going to make in the long run. But this is where you can come to meet like-minded individuals who are either brand new to the alternative asset space, just like you, or maybe they're extremely experienced and they're just looking for the latest and greatest updates in the industry.
And I'll tell you this, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, we did our one here last year, and I can't even count how many positive reviews we had.
We had a golf tournament last year.
We had a golf tournament. We're doing some fun activities. We're setting up activities for this event this year. Again, where else do you want to be than Scottsdale in October? I mean, I don't know where you guys live, but I don't know the weather from where I'm from. It's not very nice in October.
October is the only month that you should ever visit Arizona anyway, so it's perfect.
So make sure you guys get there. Again, the seating's limited, guys. There's not unlimited seating. We have about a 300 person, maybe 350 person max, 300 more realistically. So it's the first 300 people that get tickets. So race over there to altassetsummit.com. And now if you guys want to open accounts, okay. Now remember, if you think back to the accounts we mentioned, traditional IRA, Roth IRA, if you're self-employed, talk to us about how a SELP IRA can be self-directed, or even the mighty solo 401k. We probably set up more solo 401ks than any custodian in the country, specifically for real estate investments or alternative investments. And then the other accounts that we mentioned that we talk a lot about, HSAs and ESAs. Again, it's not just about funding your retirement with tax-free dollars. It's about self-directing and paying for healthcare and education expenses with tax-free dollars. So we've got a special that we're just running till the end of the month, and this is $100 off every account you set up. Okay. Now we didn't talk about the fees. Okay. Is this expensive to do?
I mean, I think I'm a little biased, but I think it's extremely cost effective. And I think that the cost, as far as how we have everything set up here, is extremely feasible. So a lot of people think, oh, my 401k doesn't have fees, or my IRA at Fidelity doesn't have fees. It does. They're hidden. They're going to be charging you based on the value of your account, the sales and trades, and your
broker
earnings,
fees, finder's fees, commissions.
You can't even look at your statement and find these fees. That's how hidden they are. But with us, we like to be very transparent. We like to make it possible for everybody to self-direct. So we charge roughly $600 a year for people to utilize our services. That includes your annual cost as well as transaction costs as well. That's what that $600 represents. But that doesn't change or go up just because the value of your account goes up. So just because you have 30,000, 300,000, 3 million, none of that matters to us. We're just looking to support everybody in this space and make sure that it's possible for everybody, and it's roughly the same amount for every single person.
So we're just a fee service business. We don't make commissions on the investments. $50 to establish an account. $495 a year to have the account. Now that's just a flat annual account fee. You can have up to 3 assets in that account and your fee will never increase. And then anytime you have us deploy funds for an investment, there's a $50 transactional processing fee. Based on the amount of work that they do, trust me guys, $50 is not a lot of money. That just pays for the labor. So if you think about it, $400, $500, $600, it's not a lot when you think of the tax savings that you're getting. And always, I always tell people this, when you fill out an application, you open an account, please do not mark take fees from the account. Why would you take tax-free dollars out of your account just to pay a fee? These are actually the one fees you can pay for your IRA, is to have the IRA, to service the IRA. So these are fees that should be paid on a credit card, get some bonus points, pay that outside of the IRA and let your IRA grow. Every dollar you take out of your IRA is now a dollar that's not growing tax-free. So we're giving a special promo. Again, if you guys open a traditional Roth, a SEP, a 401k, an HSA, or an ESA, Do it between now and January 31st and use that coupon webinar 100 and we'll give you $100 off every single account. So it's not even $495 a year, it's $395 a year. Scan that QR code or type a little message to Ashley, who's in there waiting for you guys. Say, hey, Ashley, send me your book a call link. I want to book a call with you today. But get those accounts set up, okay? Get self-directed started. And again, the thing you want to start is at least step 1 and 2, guys. You can figure out what the investment is later, but at least get the account open and at least get it funded. And you don't have to move money around. If you've got a 401k that can't be moved, just make a contribution, right? I've seen clients take a $50 contribution and do an investment and make 10 grand in 2 weeks. So just get the account open, get some money in it so you're ready to lock and fire once you do find a deal. And you never know. You might find a deal this weekend. Who knows? But get that account open. Talk to one of our account representatives if you have questions, or you can just go online, directedira.com, and fill one out in about 5 minutes.
Okay, so this is actually a really common one. We have anonymous attendee ask this one. Hey, can I roll over my self-directed Roth IRA back into my employer plan? That is a hard no. That is one of the very few transacting areas or portability areas with retirement accounts that the IRS makes super clear. Once you have assets in a Roth IRA, whether it's self-directed or not, once it's in a Roth IRA, you cannot move it into another type of account. A Roth IRA is a Roth IRA, and it'll always be a Roth IRA, okay?
Now you can though, if you've got the right type of 401k and you're still making contributions to it, you can make Roth contributions to a 401k. You just can't take a Roth IRA and put it back into the 401k. It's just one of those weird rules. You can throw traditional pre-tax IRA dollars in a 401k all day long. They just don't let Roth dollars to go back in a 401k. But again, you can make contributions as Roth dollars to the 401k.
Absolutely. And then Stacy had another really good one. So we were going to cover this today. We just ran out of time because we've got so much good content to get to you guys. But we were going to touch on the IRA LLCs, the single member IRA LLCs and multi-member IRA LLCs.
Can we pull that slide up?
do have an entire webinar about this as well. So head to our website, directedira.com. You'll be able to find the videos that are strictly dedicated to just this as well. But Stacy asks, are brokerage accounts opened in the name of the IRA, or do you use the IRA's LLC? That's an awesome question, Stacy, and I want to address 2 parts to this. So number 1, just because you have a self-directed IRA does not mean that an LLC is involved. So I want to make that super clear because that's a really common misconception. A lot of people think, oh, a self-directed IRA implies that you also have checkbook control and that you have an LLC tied to it. That is not true. You can have strictly a self-directed IRA here with us. We can facilitate all of your transactions for you without any LLC involved. However, if you are a more experienced investor, or maybe you have a lot of moving parts with a couple of rental properties, or maybe you do a lot of lending every single year and you just have a lot happening, but again, you're probably more proficient and you've been doing this a long time and you're comfortable with the LLC and owning a business and doing the bookkeeping and all that fun stuff. If you utilize an IRA LLC, then yes, the brokerage account would be under the name of the LLC, but you can also invest in traditional assets through directed trust company as well. So you don't have to have an IRA LLC to take advantage of utilizing the IRA to invest in anything securities wise. Anything publicly traded, you can also invest through us too. So you don't have to have a separate brokerage account set up. We can facilitate that for you. And you also don't have to have the LLC in place. But if you do have one in place, yes, you can use that IRA LLC's business checking account to move forward in establishing a brokerage account and invest under the LLC's name. Thanks for that, Stacy. Let's see. Ooh, so Kenny had a good one. Kenny K, he had a good question. He said, how do you structure the contract if the property requires a mortgage?
I'll take that one. That's a good question. So an IRA, remember, it's just a trust, guys. The trust has a name. The trust can buy property. The trust can even get a loan, which means the trust can be the borrower on loan documents. So here's the difference between a retirement account, like an IRA getting a loan, and a person getting a loan. Normally when we walk in a bank as a person, right, the bank is going to ask for our FICO score, proof of income, right? What's the asset? So they're going to ask for at least 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things. And they're going to make that loan to you, the individual. And what also comes with most of those loans is that the bank has recourse to you, right? Meaning if you don't pay them back, they can come after you for any deficiencies if they end up losing money on the property. So can an IRA get a loan? Yes. But here's the thing. An IRA doesn't have a FICO score. It doesn't have a tax return because it doesn't have to file a tax return. But it does have income. It does have, or not income, but it does have money to put down. It does have some assets, and the asset could be cash. So there are banks that will make a loan based on just the cash position that is coming from the buyer. This is just an asset-based loan. A lot of people also think of, if you think of a DSCR loan, if you're familiar with that type of product, DSCR means debt service coverage ratio. Banks have these types of loans for, people that are not providing a FICO score and don't need proof of income. But what they're qualifying it on is the property. Do the rents or do the income on the property outweigh the mortgage payment? Okay. Will the rents in the area pay the mortgage in the event us, the bank, have to take the property back? Mm-hmm. So oftentimes the banks that will do these DSCR loans, okay, they may also do DSCR loans or what we call non-recourse loans to an IRA. Okay. Now the IRA is still the borrower. Okay. You're not extending your credit to get financing for the IRA. The IRA is the borrower. So when a bank doesn't have a FICO score or credit to go off of, usually what they do to help alleviate their risk is they want a little bit larger of a down payment from the IRA. I would say in most cases they want 30 to 35% down as a minimum. Okay. Now, a lot of people say, well, what are the rates, Nate? Are these like hard money rates? Believe it or not, no. They're not hard money rates. They're more like DSCR rates. So you might pay a little bit higher of an interest rate than if it was an owner-occupied property, obviously, but the bank can the IRA can leverage financing from a bank. It has to be what's called non-recourse, meaning in the event of default, the bank just can go after the property. But again, the bank wants enough of a down payment, so if they take the property back, they can just sell it or put it on the market. But it cannot have recourse to your IRA's assets, other assets, and it can't be recourse to you, the person, which is a good thing if you think about it. It's just recourse to the property. Now, what a financing allows you to do in many cases is, this is not just for people that have small IRAs. I have clients that have very large IRAs, but they like to use the financing because it allows them to buy 3 rental properties instead of 1 rental property, mm-hmm. right? Now, there's obviously some, expense with the debt, but if the debt costs less than what you're getting on cash return, then the debt makes sense. So long story short, yes, an IRA can get financing from a bank, but it has to be a non-recourse loan. We have a list of these banks, or at least a couple of them, about a dozen of them on our website. Go to our resource page, click on client resources, and then you can see a list of non-recourse lenders that we work pretty often with.
Beautiful. Thanks for that. Let's see. We have Sean who does want us to speak to the IRA LLC a little bit more. That's pretty broad, so we can try to wrap that one up in just kind of a nice little package. Let me just start with the basics. What is an IRA LLC? An IRA LLC is a brand new LLC that's established to only receive IRA dollars. Now there's single member IRA LLCs and there's multi-member IRA LLCs. With the single member IRA LLC, you're working with a single member. That single member is an IRA. So this LLC is set up brand new, not your existing LLC, not any LLC that you've used before or used for just one deal 2 years ago. You can't use it, okay? It's got to be a brand new LLC, and it's set up specifically to accept those IRA dollars. Now, what exactly does that mean? All that means is that the operating agreement that's drafted for this LLC has a couple of additional and special clauses that speak to the IRA language that we're going to be looking for. The IRA language that we know has been tested in court cases like Swanson versus Commissioner, where the IRA LLC has been challenged, and that's proven to us that we are good to go there. And with the IRA LLCs, again, the operating agreement is just going to have some additional language in there that allows the IRA to be the sole member and investor. A multi-member IRA LLC, you may have guessed it, it involves multi-IRAs.
So that could be 2 or 40.
2 or 40, exactly. Yes, as many as you'd like. But we see a lot of people leveraging the multi-member LLC in Similar cases to what Nate was discussing. Let's say you have an HSA and you put $5,000 into it. And then let's say you've got an ESA and you put $2,000 into it. There's not a ton, although there's options. There's not a ton you can invest in with $2,000 or $5,000, even though those investments are out there. But let's say you've got this old 401k that you're rolling over and it's got $100,000 sitting in it. And little Timmy, my son, he's got a Roth IRA, and I'm going to plug $7,000 in there too. So now we're working with an old 401k that has $100,000 in it. We're working with little Timmy's Roth IRA, who's got a $7,000 in it. We've got an HSA of $5,000 and an ESA with $2,000. All of those different account types, whether they are owned by me or my child or my spouse or my best friend or my siblings, those can be combined into one LLC to really just increase your buying power ultimately and get you into some deals that maybe you couldn't get into before.
And it also gets all of the funds from all of those plans in one account, which is the business checking account to the LLC.
Exactly. A lot of people misconstrue that as well. You're just opening up a business checking account for that LLC. We work often with Titan Bank, and they understand IRA LLCs and the bank accounts that are needed for these. So the IRA LLC bank account is truly just an LLC business checking account that you happen to be the uncompensated manager overseeing. So you have control over that bank account. You can send wires and you've got all that money pooled right then and there. Makes transacting and deals a lot easier. And then you don't have to worry about all that titling.
Yeah, don't forget about the privileged transactions we mentioned though. So you cannot, as the manager of the LLC, take compensation to yourself. You can't take money out to pay your own things. You're really just cutting checks and sending wires for investments that are going to be made by the LLC. That LLC is going to be owned pro rata to each account based on how much each account put in. Okay, but all of the transactions are now done in the name of the LLC. We don't even see the transactions. On our books, we just show that Timmy's Roth IRA owns X percentage of LLC, old rollover 401k owns X percentage. Okay, you're now transacting in the name of the LLC. Now, keep in mind, if you need to take distributions, maybe you're above, RMD age, you need to take a distribution. Money has to come back from the LLC to the IRA to take the distribution. The LLC just acts as an intermediary entity that allows you to partner accounts together and have a little bit more control and flexibility over how fast things get funded.
Beautiful.
But not a requirement to have, but definitely something that's advantageous. And you can also set those up through our sister company, KKOS Lawyers, which we're right here.
Absolutely. And thanks, Sean, for that question. Hopefully that gives you some of the basics that you were looking for. What do you think, Nate? Time for one more?
Sure. One more.
All right. So we got an anonymous attendee again. I love these anonymous questions. Like you guys want to stay hidden. This one's creative. So can the investment from an IRA be partial? The example, 50% from an IRA and 50% from personal for a real estate investment.
Can I take that one?
Please.
The answer is yes, but be careful. Okay. So let's say I've got a $100,000 investment opportunity. I've got $50,000 in my Roth IRA. I've got $50,000 personally in my bank account. Can me and IRA come together to make a $100,000 investment? $50,000 for my IRA, $50,000 for me. The answer is yes, but what you got to make sure of is that you stay individual. Okay. You're not taking your IRA dollars and putting them in your bank account. You're not taking your money in your bank account and putting it in your IRA. You remember, you're two different buyers. Okay. Now it's important. There's different ways that you can structure how those two buyers come together. One way is you can do it through an IRA owned LLC. Okay. Maybe you own 50% of the LLC, your IRA owns it 50% of the LLC. Very important. Whatever percentages you go into the deal on, that's the same percentage you got to split income with. Okay. As soon as you start moving more income to the Roth or more income to your personal, now you're doing something that's prohibited. Okay.
That's why it's very tricky. So what we're explaining here is something that's extremely advanced. You guys, please don't go out and do this on your first deal.
Yeah.
This is something that we always defer to attorneys for to really guide you through this kind of structure, because it can be really complicated and the risk of messing it up is high.
And only do it if you have to, because it does get things muddy. Because let's say, for instance, I like to do lending. Okay. So let's say that without an LLC, I want to loan, John, the rehabber, $100,000, $50,000 from my IRA, $50,000 from me personally. Now I can bring those two parties together and put both names on the promissory note. Nate Hare to the undivided interest of 50%, and Nate Hare's Roth IRA to the undivided interest of 50%. Okay. I can fund that deal. Directed IRA will send 50% of they'll send the $50,000 to the title company. I'll send $50,000 to the title company. But when the borrower makes interest payments, they got to cut 2 checks. Okay, they cannot send $1,000 of interest to directed IRA and then me ask directed IRA for my half. So again, there's if you have to do it, you have to do it. If the borrower is okay with sending 2 checks every month, you can. But you got to keep that accounting separate and make sure the percentages are to the same percentages that you went in on the deal on. So there's different ways that you can do it. So the quick answer is yes, you can partner. You got to make sure the percentages stay the same, but make sure that you structure it in a way to where it's just easy for you. And a lot of times the IRA LLC will alleviate all those other problems.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a tough one. Appreciate that, Anand.
Yeah. So any other questions?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, I thought that was good. I mean, if you guys have any other questions, again, just go to directedira.com. You can find myself. You can find Lindsay. You can find a whole host of people that can help assist you in getting your account set up. Remember, we got webinar 100. If you want to get an account open and save $100, do it by June 30th. Use that coupon code. Talk to one of our account specialists. They'll walk you through the process. They'll even walk you through the application over the phone. If you're driving and you just want to tell them again, they'll help you through the process, at least get the account open, get it set up so that you're ready to rock and roll when you find an investment. So for Nate and Lindsay, thank you guys for joining us. Stay tuned for the next Directed IRA webinar. Thanks for sharing some time with us on this lovely Tuesday, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks, everybody.